The Eagles may have just struck gold, as there's been a lot of talk that the Birds may have just found their next Zack Baun with one of their offseason additions. So in this video, I'll talk about why that could actually be true. Plus, we got some more Eagles trade buzz coming from Adam Schefter ahead of the NFL draft, as well as some news on some of the Birds' possible draft targets. Meanwhile, one of the Eagles' NFC rivals' best players just called out Philly, while Brandon Graham seemed to leave the door open for a possible return. So we're going to talk about that and all the other latest news starting right now. The Eagles' title defense will begin on the opening night of the 2025 NFL season, as of course, the league tradition is for the defending Super Bowl champions to kick off the new season in prime time at home on Thursday night with a banner being hung in the rafters. So that's sure to be an exciting night in Philadelphia, and you know the link is going to be absolutely electric. But as far as who the Eagles' opponent in that game will be goes, that remains to be seen, with the NFL schedule set to be released in just about a month. But it's no surprise that there's already been a lot of speculation about what team the Birds could play, with the Detroit Lions being at the forefront of that due to some comments from their star receiver Amon Ra St Brown earlier in the offseason. As just after the Birds won the Super Bowl, he strongly hinted at wanting the Eagles on opening night on his podcast, saying, quote, "You would see what could have happened in an NFC championship with a healthy defense, how that blank operates." And now, several months later, St. Brown semi-called out the Eagles again in a recent appearance on Kevin Hart's show, Cold as Balls.
We want to win the Super Bowl.
I know, but we can't because the Eagles
you
are
just
going to
won
be in
one.
our way.
Hopefully we play you guys week 1.
Oh, is that your wish?
It is.
Look, honestly, I'm not really too bothered by this. Like, every team's going to want a piece of the Eagles this season. Everyone's going to give them their best shot. Like, that's just what comes with being the Super Bowl champion, so again, it doesn't really bother me. And an Eagles vs. Lions opening night could honestly be an awesome game, given that these are clearly two of the premier teams in the NFC at this point. That said, it is interesting how St. Brown really seems fixated on beating the Eagles, when it's actually the Commanders who knocked off the NFC's top seed last season and made Detroit an extremely disappointing one and done in the playoffs. I mean, let's not forget why it wasn't an Eagles vs. Lions NFC championship in the first place, like St. Brown talked about earlier. I mean, personally, if I were him, Washington would be the team that I would want in week 1, but, you know, we'll see how the whole schedule actually shakes out when the release rolls around in May. And obviously, before we really even start thinking about that, we still got the NFL draft coming up here very soon, and I think we're all kind of wondering, you know, like what the Birds might do, what trades they might make, and just who they might add to their team. And if you look at their recent history, I think it's pretty safe to assume that they're going to add at least 1 or 2 real difference makers with who they select, whether that's immediately this year or years down the line. I mean, just look at what they did last year, adding Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Jaylin Hunt, all of which wound up being significant contributors to their Super Bowl run in their rookie seasons. And then go back to the year prior, where the Birds got probable franchise cornerstones in Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, while they also got other guys that are expected to contribute a lot next season in Tyler Steen, Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, Mora Jomo, and now also backup quarterback Tanner McKee. And go back further, another year to 2022, where the Birds got Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and Nakobe Dean. Even further, in 2021, it was Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams. And of course, in 2020, they got Jalen Hurts. So the point is, the Eagles have done a phenomenal job just building through the draft in recent memory, and I expect that to continue this year. And on that front, we just got some more updates on who the Birds could be targeting in the draft, specifically with them bringing in USC cornerback Jaylin Smith on a top 30 visit, making him now the 4th corner that has visited Philadelphia in the pre-draft process. So it's pretty clear that the Eagles are very interested in adding a corner or defensive back at some point during the draft. And Smith is interesting in the sense that even though he's projected to go on day 3, he's very versatile, having played outside corner, inside corner, and safety in college, so he could potentially be a chess piece for Vic Fangio's defense, although he did primarily play outside corner this past season and was used as a slot corner for most of the time in college. But still, he's got the ability to play all 3, plus he's got some good traits, being a good secure tackler, he breaks on the ball well, he's got good coverage skills both in zone and man coverage, and he really brings value as a special teams player too. So as a day 3 pick, I definitely think he could make sense for Philly. And then switching over to the other side of the ball, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty at the tight end position right now just with what's going on with Dallas Goedert, obviously given the fact that it looks like he could possibly be traded here in the next few weeks to months. So it would also really make sense for the Eagles to target one of the impressive tight ends in this draft class to be Goddard's eventual replacement whenever that ends up being that they move on from him. And I've gone over a bunch of those potential options in a previous video, but ESPN reporter Jeremy Fowler actually just recently gave us his 2 cents in an article going over the draft's most polarizing players. And he mentioned a guy that I actually didn't talk about in Oregon tight end Terrance Ferguson as a potential Goedert replacement, calling Philly a potential sweet spot for him and detailing what makes Ferguson a compelling prospect, noting how he's been productive as a pass catcher with decent speed and also the ability to stretch the field in college, while his drawback would be a lack of physicality after the catch. Now, personally, while I probably do like some of the other prospects a little bit more than Ferguson, he still does have a lot of positive traits, including his ideal size, good hands, and solid blocking ability. So, as a mid-round pick, I definitely would not mind if the Eagles were to add Ferguson. But again, no matter who they pick or at what position, I'm definitely expecting them to add at least a few difference makers, again, just based on their recent draft history. And the crazy part is, I haven't even talked about some of the big draft day trades that the Birds have made in recent memory, whether that's moving up or moving down, maybe acquiring additional picks, or acquiring a player like they did with A.J. Brown in 2022 and DeAndre Swift in 2023. And if you watched my last video, you'll know that Adam Schefter actually recently predicted that the Eagles could make a very similar trade to the one they made in 2023 for Swift during draft weekend this year by going out and acquiring a veteran player through a trade. And Schefter actually doubled down on that in a recent appearance on 97.5 The Fanatic, saying that because the Eagles have 20 draft picks over the next 2 years, he expects them to be very active on draft night and trying to fill some of their holes through trade using some of those draft picks. Now, who could they be looking at? Schefter says he doesn't know quite yet, but he is certain that they'll be scouring the league and looking to make a deal or two when the time comes. So, once again, as I said in my last video, it definitely looks like Howie Roseman and the Eagles are going to be very active trade-wise when the draft rolls around in a couple weeks. Now, whether they're still going to be active in the free agency market this late, though, that remains to be seen, but we did just recently see that Justin Simmons is still very interested in joining the team. There's also other guys out there that could be intriguing options, and the Birds still do have $23 million left in cap space, so, yes, a lot of that's going to go to draft picks and other things, but there is still a chance that they could use some of that money to bring in somebody new that's on the free agent market still. That said, it's also very possible that the Eagles have already made their best free agency addition, with multiple sources pointing to the Birds' signing of Joshua Uche as one of the most underrated moves of the entire offseason. And that includes sites like PFF, which I talked about in a previous video, or Heavy.com, with Tony Adam recently writing that the Eagles may have struck gold with Uche, while citing Mike Sando of the Athletics article, where he suggested that Uche, along with a few other guys, could possibly be the next Zack Baun for Philadelphia. And also, there's Bleacher Report, as writer Gary Davenport wrote an article where he said that Uche could wind up as the biggest steal of the offseason, saying, quote, "With Josh Sweat heading to Arizona and Brandon Graham calling it a career, edge rusher shot to the top of the list of offseason needs for the Eagles. The defending Super Bowl champs have made multiple signings at the position, including one that could potentially be the biggest bargain in all of free agency. Back in 2022, Josh Uche appeared to be on the verge of stardom, erupting for 11.5 sacks in an 8-game span. Even if Uche only produces 4 or 5 sacks as a rotational player, he'll be a bargain at less than $2 million this season, but if he can recapture his 2022 level of production, there won't be a bigger free agent steal in the NFL this year." So, yeah, it's pretty safe to say that there is a lot of people that are really high on the Birds signing of Uche, and I'm definitely one of them. Because like Davenport said there, if he can even just get a few sacks, then he'll be an absolute bargain for less than $2 million, but if he can somehow get back to his 2022 form, then he legitimately would be the next Zack Baun for Philadelphia. And honestly, I feel like there's a decent chance that he can do that, considering that his pressure rate has remained really, really high, even if the sack numbers aren't there. And if Vic Fangio uses him the correct way, then I really could see Uche having a monster year. And going even further, I feel pretty much the exact same way about Azeez Ojulari, as he has shown a lot of potential in his 4 years in the league, and if he can just stay healthy, then I feel like he could also have a true breakout season for Philadelphia at the edge rusher position. So hopefully both guys end up panning out, and Philadelphia ends up with 2 steals on the defensive line. Switching over to another defensive lineman though, the recently retired Brandon Graham actually just went on a little mini media tour, going on Jason Kelsey's podcast and also Kay Adams' show, Up and Adams. And I think my favorite clip comes from the latter, where BG revealed that he and the Birds were trying not to laugh on the sideline when they were blowing out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
And 34 zip. I was bored. I gotta tell you, BG. I was like, I'm bored of this game. It's a wrap. Let's go.
We was on the sideline trying to hold it in too, because it's just like, We felt good going into this game because we had a great week. We had a great week of practice.
I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, like, how can you not love that? And in addition to that, BG talked about a whole bunch more, including calling the NFL's attempts to ban the tush-push soft on new heights, while also revealing his future plans to step into the media world, and most interestingly, he also seemingly didn't fully close the door on him returning to play.
How retired are you?
I'm 90% retired. I'm 90%.
I love that. That's my favorite answer. Let's break it down. The 90 I get. Baby girl, retirement, the torn tricep. What's the 10? What's the 10? What's the 10?
The 10 is how much I want to continue to train the way I'm training. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to look good. I got a new motivation. It's just to look good. Because if I'm gonna be on TV and want to talk and have my suits on, I got to be looking good. So, and I want to be healthy for my kids, like you said, my family. And I got a new motivation now. So that 10% is just in case, but I doubt it because I try to be a man of my word, and I don't want to have to play up in that back and forth stuff. I'm just going to accept it and just move on and get ready for what's next, because I feel like I'm going to make the next thing great.
But all I heard was, you're not fully...
I know.
I heard the door is not cement, boat lock, master lock shut. I heard you're going to stay in shape, which you're going to stay in shape because in January, you might get we got to go face Mahomes. You told me you wanted to sack and you didn't get your paws on in the Super Bowl. And I feel like you'd answer that call. Am I right?
And you know what? We ain't there yet, but if it happens, we could say you said it first.
I mean, that's at least a little interesting. Now, do I think BG's actually going to come back and play next season? No, I definitely don't, but it is interesting to hear that he hasn't fully 100% ruled out a return just yet, although I feel like it is pretty darn close. But all that being said, you guys know that I'm going to be continuing to cover all the news that comes out for the Eagles this entire offseason, so if you don't want to miss any of that, then make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you're notified instantly when I upload a video or go live. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss any of it, so again, subscribe, turn on notifications, and also drop a like on the video to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton, guys. See if we can get to at least 500 likes today, and also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another Eagles video going over some more Eagles trade buzz, among other things, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.